Considered by many to be the most beautiful film actress of all time, Hedy Lamarr rose to fame by frequently portraying femme fatale, such as Delilah in the famous movie Samson and Delilah. Brilliant on the screen as well as off it, she left her mark in history not only as a world-class beauty and actress, but also as a brilliant scientist and inventor that developed the earliest technology that forms the basis of today's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and GPS systems. But for all her embarrassment of riches when it came to her looks, brains and personality, this femme fatale still lived an utterly tragic and scandal-ridden life. But to understand how this icon came to be, we need to start her unbelievable story from the very beginning. The Hollywood screen legend everybody knows as Hedy Lamarr was actually born Hedwig Kiesler, the only child of wealthy, assimilated Jewish parents in Vienna. She grew up imbibing the city's brilliant cultural life and decadent sophistication. Even at a young age, Lamarr's beauty, acting chops and intellectual brilliance were undeniable. As a child, she showed an interest in acting and was fascinated by theater and film. At the age of 12, she won a beauty contest in Vienna. She also began to learn about technological inventions with her father, who would take her out on walks and explain how devices functioned. Although allowed to take acting classes at an early age, Lamarr did not exactly have permission from her parents to take jobs. So one day when she was only 15 years old, she very audaciously forged a note from her mother and went to Sasha Film and was able to have herself hired as a script girl. While there, she had a role as an extra in the romantic comedy Money on the Street, and then a small speaking part in the comedy Storm in a Water Glass in 1931. Producer Max Reinhardt then cast her in a play entitled The Weaker Sex, which was performed at the theater in Der Stadt. Reinhardt was so impressed and blown away by her performance that H decided to bring her with him back to Berlin. While in Berlin, she would go on to appear in 2 more movies before landing the scandalous role that would make her simultaneously famous and infamous internationally. In early 1933, at age 18, Lamarr was given the lead in Gustav Macchietti's film Ecstasy. It was the scandal that launched 1,000 tabloids. In the movie, she played the neglected young wife of an indifferent older man. The film became both celebrated and notorious for showing Lamarr's face in the throes of passion as well as close-up and brief scenes of nudity. Lamarr later claimed she was duped by the director and producer who used high-power telephoto lenses, although the director contested her claims. Although she was dismayed and now disillusioned about taking other roles, the film gained world recognition after winning an award at the Venice Film Festival. Throughout Europe, it was regarded as an artistic work. In America, it was considered overly provocative and received negative publicity, especially among women's groups, which led to it being banned. Both the Pope and Adolf Hitler condemned the movie, although for different reasons. Lamarr tried to move on from her scandalous movie and took on a number of stage roles, including one where she played the lead titular role of Sissy, a play about Empress Elizabeth of Austria, produced in Vienna. It won accolades from critics and she built up quite the devoted little fan base. Admirers sent roses to her dressing room and tried to get backstage to meet her. She sent most of them away, including a man who was more insistent, Friedrich Mandl. He became obsessed with getting to know her. Mandl was an Austrian military arms dealer and munitions manufacturer who was reputedly the 3rd richest man in Austria. Lamarr fell for his charm, fascinating personality, and his immense financial wealth. But the match with Mandl was problematic from the very beginning. Her parents, both of Jewish descent, did not approve of the relationship due to Mandl's ties to Italian fascist leader Benito Mussolini and later German Führer Adolf Hitler, but they could not stop the headstrong Lamarr. On August 10, 1933, Lamarr married Mandl at only 18 years old and he was 33. But her marriage would not be a happy one, and no amount of charm or money could make Lamarr content with her new husband. Mandl was an extremely controlling husband who strongly objected to her raunchy scenes in Ecstasy and prevented her from pursuing her acting career. He even rather unsuccessfully attempted to find and destroy all copies of the movie Ecstasy. But it didn't end there, because like a dragon guarding his loot, Mandl virtually kept Lamarr prisoner in their extravagant castle home. He treated her like a doll, an object of art which had to be guarded, and imprisoned, having no mind, no life of its own outside of the castle. At said castle home, Mandel, who had close social and business ties to the fascist Italian government through his selling of munitions to the country, also had ties to the Nazi regime of Germany, even though his own father was Jewish, as was Lamarr's. Lamarr wrote that the dictators of both countries attended lavish parties at the Mandel home. Lamarr accompanied Mandel to business meetings as she was forced to play host and smile on demand amongst Mandel's friends and scandalous business partners, where he conferred with scientists and other professionals involved in military technology. As unhappy as Lamarr was with her life and marriage, the silver lining was that these conferences were her introduction to the field of applied science and nurtured her latent talent in science. But Lamarr was not entirely as hopeless and helpless as some might assume, because she went and had an affair with her husband's best friend, Prince Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg. Far from the stereotypical trophy wife, Lamarr listened carefully to talk of the German military's technological innovations as she presided over grand dinners in Starhemberg's home. Lamarr's marriage to Mandel eventually became too unbearable, and she started plotting her escape and separation from both her husband and country in 1937. And what an escape it was! In her autobiography, she wrote that she disguised herself as her maid and fled to Paris. But by other accounts, she persuaded Mandel to let her wear all of her jewelry for a dinner party and then disappeared afterward. Whatever version of events happened, it was a pretty exciting story worthy of being turned into a movie. After escaping to London, Lamarr met up with a film agent who took her to a hotel to meet a little man. Well, said little man turned out to be Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM Studios. It was Mayer who persuaded her to change her name to Hedy Lamarr, in order to distance herself from her real identity, and the ecstasy lady reputation associated with it, choosing the surname in homage to the beautiful silent film star Barbara Lamarr. In almost no time at all, the newly named Hedy arrived in New York to the flash of photographers' bulbs, with a new name and a $500 a week studio contract. Yet the most surprising turn in her already wild life. In 1938, when Mayer brought Hedy to Hollywood, he began promoting her as the world's most beautiful woman. And he was not wrong in doing so, because when she appeared as the lead female in the movie Algiers, her beauty caused a sensation. When her face appeared on screen, everyone gasped, because her beauty quite literally took one's breath away. It was just too bad that that beauty got her into such trouble. In future Hollywood films, she was invariably typecast as the archetypal glamorous seductress of exotic origin. By 1940, the newly christened Hedy Lamarr was a bona fide movie star. Disdainful of the Hollywood social whirl, she preferred painting or swimming with her good friend and Southern. "Any girl can be glamorous," she later said. "All you have to do is stand still and look stupid." Over the years, she would go on to star in many movies. Among her most iconic roles were as the sultry temptress Delilah in the movie Samson and Delilah next to Victor Mature, Her Highness AMD the Bellboy, Ziegfeld Girl, White Cargo, Boomtown, and many others. In an attempt to break away from her femme fatale image and take on more serious roles, Hedy left MGM and started her own production company and produced 2 movies, but both went over budget and were commercial failures. Lamarr returned to MGM for a film noir, A Lady Without a Passport, in 1950, which flopped. More popular were 2 pictures she made at Paramount, a western with Ray Milland, Copper Canyon, and a Bob Hope spy spoof, My Favorite Spy, in 1951. During her time in Hollywood, Hedy was introduced to a variety of quirky real-life characters, such as businessman and pilot Howard Hughes. Lamarr dated Hughes, but there was a lot of trouble in paradise. Hughes did a bunch of strange things, including collecting his own urine. Maybe unsurprisingly, Hedy called him the worst lover she ever had. However, what interested Hedy about Howard Hughes was most notably his desire for innovation. Her scientific mind had been bottled up by Hollywood, but Hughes helped to fuel the innovator in Hedy, giving her a small set of equipment to use in her trailer on set. While she had an inventing table set up in her house, the small set allowed Hedy to work on inventions between takes. Hughes took her to his airplane factories, showed her how the planes were built, and introduced her to the scientists behind process. Hedy was inspired to innovate as Hughes wanted to create faster planes that could be sold to the US military. She bought a book of fish and a book of birds and looked at the fastest of each kind. She combined the fins of the fastest fish and the wings of the fastest bird to sketch a new wing design for Hughes' planes. Upon showing the design to Hughes, he said to Hedy, "You're a genius." And she really was. Lamarr was indeed a genius as the gears in her inventive mind continued to turn. She once said, "Improving things comes naturally to me." She went on to create an upgraded stoplight and a tablet that dissolved in water to make a soda similar to Coca-Cola. However, her most significant invention was engineered as the United States geared up to enter World War II. In 1940, Lamarr met George Antheil at a dinner party. Antheil was another quirky yet clever force to be reckoned with. Known for his writing, film scores, and experimental music compositions, he shared the same inventive spirit as Lamarr. She and Antheil talked about a variety of topics, but of their greatest concerns was the looming war. Antheil recalled, "Hedy said that she did not feel very comfortable sitting there in Hollywood and making lots of money when things were in such a state." While filming Algiers, Hedy spent her nights not at parties but sketching blueprints. She'd eavesdropped on her ex-husband's weapons deals and learned about Nazi radio jamming tech. So between takes on Ziegfeld Girl, she teamed up with avant-garde composer George Antheil to invent frequency-hopping spread spectrum technology, a system to guide Allied torpedoes without Nazi interference. How'd they do it? Player pianos? No, really. They modeled it after Antheil's 16-piano symphony, using synchronized radio frequencies that hopped like musical notes. The US Navy shrugged it off as too ahead of its time, until the Cuban Missile Crisis. Today it's the backbone of Wi-Fi, GPS, and Bluetooth. Not bad for a pretty face. After its creation, Lamarr and Antheil sought a patent and military support for the invention. While awarded U.S. patent number 2,292,387 in August of 1942, the Navy decided against the implementation of the new system. The rejection led Lamarr to instead support the war efforts with her celebrity by selling war bonds. Happy in her adopted country, she became an American citizen in April 1953. Meanwhile, Lamarr's patent expired before she ever saw a penny from it. While she continued to accumulate credits in films until 1958, her inventive genius was yet to be recognized by the public. It wasn't until Lamarr's later years that she received any awards for her invention. The Electronic Frontier Foundation jointly awarded Lamarr and Antheil with their Pioneer Award in 1997. Lamarr also became the first woman to receive the Invention Convention's Bulby Nass Spirit of Achievement Award. As for her film career, well, that sadly dried up later in her life and she became reclusive. And the reason why was absolutely devastating. Lamarr was ashamed. She was once the world's most gorgeous woman, but after some botched plastic surgeries, she became disfigured and disliked being seen. Now, about those disastrous plastic surgeries, even when Lamarr was trying to correct her botched beauty surgeries, she needed to innovate. Her plastic surgeons described how Lamarr would come to them with ingenious ideas for lifting, cutting, and pulling skin so that she would appear more youthful. Apparently, surgeons still use some of her ideas to this day. The other reason why her acting jobs dried up were because of the scandalous ghost-written autobiography called Ecstasy and Me, which completely ruined her. The book's torrid passages included tales of orgies on sets with starlets and assistant directors, sadomasochism, and a strange story of one lover who got intimate with a doll that he had made to look like Lamarr while she watched in horror. It also included a few interesting passages discussing her role as a groundbreaking film producer, and defensive yet amusing retellings of her bizarre behavior during her divorce from millionaire Texas oilman W. Howard Lee, but the raunchy tales were what stuck. So why did this curious, ingenious woman agree to participate in Ecstasy and Me in the first place? By the mid-1960s, Lamarr's movie stardom had faded and she had 6 tumultuous marriages behind her. She claimed to be broke and, according to the documentary Bombshell, was addicted to methamphetamines. Once Lamarr actually bothered to read Ecstasy and Me, she knew her career was done. "I was there when she read Ecstasy and Me for the first time," TCM's Robert Osborne recalls. "She was shocked by it. But that was the foolish side of her. She wanted money. They simply made up passages in that book and she allowed them to. It was part of her capriciousness, giving away parts of her life for a book and not worrying about the consequences. Now, to get a fuller view of this hot genius's life, we have to talk about her love life. It dumpster fire wrapped in sequins. She had 6 husbands, including Jean Marquis, a screenwriter who forced her to adopt a son to save their marriage. She later called him a mistake in a nice suit. John Loder, co-star turned husband who allegedly married her for the PR. They had 2 kids, then he took the kids in the nanny. Teddy Stauffer, a Swiss playboy who bankrupted her with his Alpine nightclub. Later on her life, she did not slow down the drama. In 1991, she was arrested for shoplifting laxatives and eye drops from a Florida drugstore. "I forgot to pay," she insisted. The charges were dropped, but the mugshot, "Glamorous as Hell," went viral before viral was a thing. Overall, her life was actually quite sad. Her final years were lonely. She lived as a recluse, phoning friends to rant about old Hollywood grudges, and was broke despite once being the hottest face in Hollywood and inventing technology that is still used to this day. And the ultimate twist, her tale? The year she died, her frequency-hopping patent expired, just as Wi-Fi took over the world. Hedy's tombstone read, "The world's most beautiful woman." But her real epitaph? Frequency-hopping queen. Wi-Fi godmother. Hollywood's forgotten genius. In Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story, a documentary by Alexandra Dean, film scholars and historians of technology, together with Lamarr's family, friends and biographers, present a portrait of a brilliant woman undone by the world's fixation on her famous face. A portrait made even sharper and more poignant by Dean's inclusion of newly discovered audio tapes of Lamarr as a recluse in her 70s, alternately drug-addled and charming. "I think Hedy had her greatest power as a teenager. I don't think you can beat the power of walking into a room and having people lose their breath at the sight of you." Although she died in 2000, Lamarr was inducted into the National Inventors Hall of Fame for the development of her frequency-hopping technology in 2014, right next to Thomas Edison. Such achievement has led Lamarr to be dubbed the mother of Wi-Fi and other wireless communications like GPS and Bluetooth. So the next time you connect to Wi-Fi, take a second to toast Hollywood's sexiest brainiac. Before finishing this video, here is some bonus information about Hedy. The even juicier little-known facts about Hedy Lamarr, because darling, her life was wilder than a Tinseltown tabloid. Number 1. She invented instant cola. Yes, really. During World War II, Hedy got bored between takes and whipped up a dissolvable tablet that turned water into soda. Think Alka-Seltzer meets Coca-Cola. She pitched it to investors as a wartime morale booster, but it flopped. Decades later, Starbucks stole her vibe with those instant Frappuccino packets. Justice for Hedy. Number 2. Howard Hughes was her lab rat. After her ecstasy scandal, Hedy dated aviation mogul Howard Hughes. He let her borrow his chemists and engineers to tinker with inventions. She redesigned his airplane wings for better speed, inspired by fish fins. Hughes gushed, "She's a genius, and hotter than my jet fuel." Number 3. He was a polyglot prankster. Hedy spoke 4 languages fluently: German, English, French and Hungarian, and loved pranking directors. On set for Samson and Delilah, she convinced co-star Victor Mature she was psychic by predicting his lines in Hungarian. He didn't notice for weeks. Number 4. He tried to sell her face to science. In the 1970s, Hedy offered her famously symmetrical face to plastic surgeons as a template for beauty. They declined, fearing lawsuits. Undeterred, she published a DIY beauty guide titled "How to Look Disgustingly Young Forever." Spoiler: it involved egg yolks and vodka toner. Number 5. Her secret World War II side hustle. While inventing torpedo tech, Hedy also auctioned kisses for war bonds. One fan paid $25,000, which is well over $400,000 in today's money, to smooch her at a Hollywood rally. She later joked, "My lips funded D-Day." Number 6. He was obsessed with puzzles. Hedy's nightstand? Stacked with crossword puzzles, Rubik's Cubes, and a locked box of unbreakable ciphers she designed herself. She once mailed one to the Pentagon with a note, "Solve this and I'll buy you a drink." They never replied. Number 7. Mel Brooks paid her the best backhanded compliment. When Mel Brooks named the sleazy villain Hedy Lamarr in Blazing Saddles, Hedy sued, until Brooks sent her flowers with a note. "You're the only Hedy Lamarr, he's Hedley and he's an idiot." She dropped the suit and reportedly cackled for days. Number 8. She was a phone troll before trolls existed. In her 80s, Hedy became a recluse but stayed petty. She'd call random numbers from the phone book at 3 a.m. to rant about the good old days. One victim? Andy Warhol, who later said she was more avant-garde than my soup cans. Number 9. Her final invention, a glow-in-the-dark dog. In the 1990s, Hedy sketched plans for a luminescent dog collar to prevent car accidents. She even tried dyeing her poodle's fur with radioactive paint. The dog survived. The patent, however, did not. Number 10. Her ashes were almost lost in a storage unit. After her death, Hedy's son kept her ashes in a Costco urn for years, until he forgot to pay the storage fee. They were nearly auctioned off with old furniture before a fan rescued them. Now they're split between Vienna and Hollywood. Even in death, she's extra. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost a dime, but it means the world to small channels like this one. Check out these other videos from our channel.